Hi, this is Jen with Unchained Crochet. If you haven't done it yet, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to see more items and tutorials like this. Hi, welcome back to Unchained Crochet. Tonight we are starting the Mystery MCAL. This is the Safe Haven pocket wrap / scarf. So you can stop after a couple clues and just keep it as a scarf if that's what you want. For tonight's sample, I'm going to start one with this. I love this yarn, and it is from Hobby Lobby in the color Rainbow. I love it. It's got some plums and burgundies, a little bit of like a corally rust, all the way to peaches, pinks, a little bit of greens in there. So I thought that would be a good yarn to use so that you can see how it looks in a color changing yarn, and as well as the stitch definition. This is a pretty easy pattern. Not a whole lot of complication to it. I like to keep things interesting but scaled down and simplified. So you're going to need a hook to go with your worsted weight yarn. I do recommend you use a worsted weight in this, just for the sake of being close to the same gauge if you're interested in size. This is about the size of my Can't Wait pocket wrap that I did. I used that to measure as I went with my test piece. And it's a good size without being too long or too short. It doesn't ride above the waist. It kind of gently falls around your upper hip area. The pockets are nice and generous, and it's nice and soft. This is a nice soft yarn. My test piece, I did use the Red Heart Melange. Of course, since this is a mystery MCAL, I can't show it. So you'll just have to trust me, it's beautiful. Alright, so let's get started. If you don't already have some, you might want one or two stitch markers. I like these little, I don't know if they're silicone or what, but they open up and close. You're just going to mark one side of your piece. We're going to start with the top edge of the pocket, but the main body section of this is rectangular and goes on around your shoulders, the inner part of it. So we're working horizontally and starting with the top of the pocket, but it's going to be folded up and stitched down into place. So the top of the pocket is going to start with a rib done in half double crochet. So we're going to start, sorry if I'm bumping this too much, hopefully it's not too much of a distraction. Leave yourself a good tail to weave in later. I usually do 6 to 8 inches. If you're working with the Red Heart Melange, I just want to say right now, you might want to leave yourself about 10 inches of tail. Anytime you tie on a new ball or start, you're going to need to really anchor that to the stitches, like weave it in, knot it to a stitch, and then weave it back on itself, knot it to that stitch, and then tuck a little bit more tail in again. Because it is similar to other single ply yarns, there's not a lot of tooth to it, so it will tend to come undone in the wash, and you don't want that to happen after all that work. So I highly recommend you use a long tail for your ends if you're working with a single ply yarn such as the Red Heart Roll With It Melange. Okay, so we are going to start this. This is clue number 1. I've called this one Sandy Beach. So we're going to chain 40. I may need to stop and adjust my gooseneck here. Chain 40. Start with your slip knot. That one does not count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I'm going to count to myself. Okay, so now we've got 40 chains. If you want to count your chains, start counting from the first one from the hook on down. You should have 40 chains. Next, we are going to half double crochet in the back loop of this chain we've just made. Not the first stitch, not the first back loop you come to. If you turn your chain over, you'll see those bumps. They're right there on the back. We're going to skip the first one that we come to. We're going to half double into the back loop only of that chain. Continue across the chain in the same fashion. You're going to half double crochet into the back loop of each chain. I like using this method because it leaves a nice clean finish to the bottom edge where you can see the chains. And it doesn't look all loopy and droopy. I'm going to pause this for a second and get me out a bunch of yarn. Okay. Continue across the row through the back loops only, doing your half double crochets. So I will catch up with you. You can continue on and then count your half double crochets from your first one all the way across. You should have 39 half double crochets at the end of this row. Okay, so I've got the 39 half double crochets. You're then going to chain 1, turn your work, and I want you to look at this from the top. Do you see the chains across the top there? You got those little V's right here that kind of go into each other. Looks like a chain. Right here in front of the front loop, there's a third loop on each of these. We're going to work into the third loop. This is going to create ridges on the back side each time we do this. So you've chained 1. Here is my first third loop right there. So we're going to wrap. We're going to do our half double crochet up from the bottom into that third front loop. And it'll feel kind of loose. That's okay. So just keep looking for that third loop. If you second guess yourself and think that this is the front loop, it's not. Just look at the top and you'll see your chains there. So we're going into this third loop. all the way in the front. Let's get about 10 stitches done here. Sorry, I had to adjust my camera when I paused it last, and now I've got, my yarn has fallen to the floor. Let me get that caught up there. Bumpy, bumpy. If anybody has a good recommendation for something other than these stupid goosenecks, let me know. That's what I use to videotape my tutorials, and it's so annoying. Fortunately, this is a good camera on this phone, and it has like a gyroscope or something built into it, because you can jiggle it a bit and it'll refocus pretty quickly, even though the camera is still moving. Okay, so we've got several stitches done there. You see those third loops right there? Okay, you can check yourself, turn it over, and you see you've got that chain now worked to the other side. Can you see it? Right there. So what we're going to do now, I'm just going to drop that needle for a minute. We're going to put a stitch marker in this chain that we've worked up on the back side here. I'm saying back side because for now that is the back side, and it will be of the piece in general. What we're going to do later is, after our next stitch pattern is completed, we'll be seeing how this will be folded up, and that will then become the top of the pocket. So go ahead and continue on across the row, going through that third loop all the way in the front of the stitch, half double crocheting all the way across. You might want to stop and count at the end and be sure that you still have 39. It's not imperative. If you lose a stitch, you can always make one up later. No biggie. But you don't want to skip any stitches in between. That will mess up your chain look to the other side. So meet me at the very end, and there's a tip I want to show you at the end of this row. I'm about to throw this gooseneck out the window. You know, if you've ever watched the movie Charade, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's an older movie. Or if you're older, you may have played this game back in the day at a party. But they would take an orange and tuck it under their chin. And they had to bend over and lean in and pass it to the other person's neck the same way they were holding it, without dropping the orange. I think I would have better luck holding my phone with my neck like that and videotaping. And nah, I laugh and joke too much. So we've come to the end here, and I just want to show you on this row here, because every row you want to be sure that you don't miss that last back, you know, the third loop right there. You don't want to miss that. So I've got 2 left here. I'm going to go ahead and take that and show you. See how there's a little bit more over here? If I stop there, I'm going to be 1 stitch short. So we're going to go into that third loop there. All right, so now we've got a nice straight edge. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to do the same thing again across the entire row. Our first third loop is right here. Okay. I want to turn it over so you can see. Once again, we're working up a chain across the front here. Okay. So we've got one on that side, which is where we placed our stitch marker. And then we've got one starting right here. So it's kind of a rib. It doesn't really have the stretchiness. It's more of a faux rib that post going around the post would have. It makes a horizontal ridge as opposed to going around doing post stitches. Would be more of the other way would be vertical for the ridges. So keep going across this row, and I will meet you at the end of the row. We'll go over this one more time. Alright, we've come to the end of this row. Don't forget your last third loop at the end. Chain one and turn. I'm going to do one more row with you. By the way, there will be both left and right-handed versions for this. So look for the playlist that has your hand on it. If you're left-handed, go to the left-handed playlist. If you're right, go to the right. No, I'm not that ambidextrous. I am a little ambidextrous, but I just flip it in my editing app. I'm a lefty. I'll just stick with you through the end of this row here, and then we'll talk about it a little bit before we pause again. Okay, so that row's done. I'm going to pull this loop up so we can talk about this. You're going to continue doing this until you have 3 ridges on each side. Right now we've got 1 here, and we've got 2 on the other side. 1 and 2. So those chain ridges are what you're looking for. So count those, and when you get the row done that makes your third one on both sides, then we're going to start our next stitch pattern. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and keep stitching, you keep stitching, and then we'll start our next stitch pattern when we're ready. Okay, so I've just finished the edge of the pocket. When you finish that row, you should see your stitch marker down below. This is our back side. It will later be folded up like that. So this is the front of the pocket. It's the back side of the total body of the wrap. Okay, so do your chain one. We're going to start, I think most people call this the lemon peel stitch. You're going to chain one and turn. Sometimes you might hear me refer to it as the grit stitch or the crunch stitch. Sometimes they'll make this with a single crochet and a treble crochet so that you get more of a raised bump from the difference in the heights. But we're going to do a single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet across the row. And now you will be working into this first stitch, and you're going through both loops at the top of the stitch. We're not working through that front loop anymore, that third loop. We're working into the top of the stitch through both loops. So chain one, single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet. Pay close attention on this row in particular as it's setting us up for the rest of this section. This stitch pattern is the bulk of this clue. You're not going to see much texture to this until we get a couple rows done. Just a little FYI. So we've got a double crochet. Now we've got our last stitch right there. Now don't go into that third loop like we were. We're going to go into right there with a single crochet. Now we're going to chain two because that's going to count as a double crochet at the beginning of our next row. Chain two and turn your work. So this counts as our first double crochet. So we're going to go into the next stitch with a single crochet. then double crochet, single crochet. And since we started this row with a double crochet, we're going to be ending it with a double crochet. Both of these rows, this is just a 2-row repeat for this section. Both of these rows start and end with the same stitch. If you're prone to skipping stitches or adding stitches where you shouldn't be, you might want to just go ahead and stop at the end of your rows until you get acquainted with the pattern and just count your stitches. So we've ended with a double crochet there. Chain 1, and we're going to go into that double crochet we just did with a single crochet. So you should be double crocheting into the previous single crochet, and you should be single crocheting into the previous double crochet. So whatever you come to, you're doing the opposite. Now when you get to the end of the row, you've come to your chain 2 that you started your previous row with, you should be putting a single crochet in the top of that chain 2. If you use chain 3 for your double crochet, your starting double crochet, that's fine. Just go into the top chain. So go ahead and continue on in the pattern until you get about, I want to say about 4 inches of this stitch, this lemon peel stitch. So from the top of the pocket part, from here on, get about 4 inches. And then we're going to talk, I'm going to pause this, we'll talk about how we're going to count these rows here, because it can be kind of a chore if you aren't careful, and you'll have to count and recount, count and recount. Okay, I just want to apologize real quick. Just a little apology. This yarn, I realize now after working with it, I've not worked with this before, it's a little hard to see the stitch definition. So I apologize for that. I'm going to show you my test piece here in a minute so you can have some clarification. But I can see that this is the first row of the lemon peel stitch that I started. Because it made this like thin little line across the back side of my stitching. So as I was stitching across, it made that little line right there. So this is the first row, and it started with a single crochet. The first row did. So the next row, you should be able to put your finger there and see that that is a double crochet. So here's the first row that starts with a single crochet. The next row is a double crochet. So that's row 1, row 2 of this stitch pattern. So you need to repeat this. So we're going to count, and we're going to do 25 repeats of this lemon peel stitch. There's 2 rows to each repeat. So let's just count our double crochets at each end, at the edge. So we started there with the single crochet on the first row. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See, we're counting those there. We're doing 25 repeats of those 2 rows. And then once you count your last double crochet row that starts with a double crochet, and that's 25, then you're going to chain 1 and turn and do the first row once more, the one that starts with the single crochet. Let me show you the sample. I'm going to pause again. I don't want you to see the whole thing because I have a lot worked up that we haven't gotten to yet, and it is a mystery cal. So here we go. Hold on. This is the pocket, the bottom of the piece that we just started, and it's folded up right now to make the pocket. It's still a loose flap. I've not sewn it to the body of it yet. I don't want you to see everything just yet. But this is what it looks like worked up in the Red Heart Roll With It Melange. So a lot more stitch definition there. I don't know if you can see that texture. It's just a very subtle texture. That's why I named this clue Sandy Beach. Because it just kind of reminds me of sand and pebbles on the beach. I think that this would look stunning in a solid color. I didn't have enough tan in the Yarn Bee Chloe. And it looks like it might be almost like a DK weight or sport weight. Just a little bit too fine for what I'm wanting. So there you have that colorway. And you can see our 3 ridges here at the top of the pocket. All right, I hope you've enjoyed clue 1, and you'll need to make 2 of these. So I would suggest that you would go ahead and start from 2 separate skeins or cakes, and do one section here and start another one, and stop the video after the top of the pocket, and then go back to your first one and start your lemon peel stitch. So that's my suggestion, and do that to both pieces. That way, you don't have to watch and rewatch the videos over and over again. Not that I mind you watching it over and over again, just save you a little time and hassle and figuring out where you left off. So that's what I suggest with this clue, and I hope you'll join me soon for the next clue. Oops. That's going to be Clusters of Hope, clue 2. And I should have that out by the middle of this coming week. Guessing Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm not sure which is my day off this week. I haven't looked at my schedule yet. Have fun with this, and I will talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in.